Look at this, everybody. Well, not the traffic really, that's not what I'm trying to point out to you, but this beautiful wildflowers, no idea what kind of flowers those are, and down there a scenic piece of river. It's the Sometimes Vlog. It's a vlog that happens sometimes. I wish we had Tyler Evans here to go the Sometimes Vlog. Hello everybody, it's me, Justin Scarred they call me, because that is what I'm called. And that's exactly where you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Huh, fancy that. Look at this, right here. Where am I? I am in Marysville, California. What am I doing in Marysville, California? Just courting. Just courting. Because this morning I went and spent $422 in the Yuba County Court, located here in Marysville, California, just across the river from Yuba City, California, which oddly enough is not in Yuba County, but is the county seat of another county called Sutter County, which is why this whole area is called Yuba-sutter for some reason, because those two counties, for some reason, I just explained the reason. What's wrong with me? And here we have the Bok Kai Temple, fittingly just across from the river since 1880, replacing apparently an earlier one even from 1850, the Bok Kai Temple, which is a temple apparently honoring a water deity from China. Now, why in the world would this be here in Northern California? Because my friends, as we discussed once, visiting a Chinese temple in Oroville, California, which you can go back and find that on the Sometimes Vlog. That one was actually built with the help of the Emperor and Empress of China, much like we discussed in that video from Oroville. This Chinese temple was built by Chinese immigrants who were here to work the gold fields of California during and after the gold rush. So Chinese people form a very interesting and big part of California history. Now there's a woman sitting out here burning incense and taking care of her temple. I don't want to be disrespectful to her or this beautiful place, but look at how beautiful and ornate this little place is. Of course, it faces the river, which now means it faces a massive grass-covered and wildflower-covered levee. And so the temple's front porch really doesn't point at anything all that scenic, but I'm sure in 1880, this levee wasn't here. There was probably a ton of traffic going up and down the river, and this temple formed a very important part of downtown Marysville, with all the Chinese immigrants here owning shops, being part of the town's, the fabric of the town, and of course, forming a big part of California history. Marysville actually was on the California-Oregon Trail, so between Oregon and California, a lot of commerce happening there. So there's been a settlement here, I think, trading posts and stuff like that since the 1840s. Marysville itself, I think, really wasn't established till the late 1840s or 1850s, because of course in 1849, with the Marshall Gold discovery, Sutter's Mill, California's gold rush started, all the 49ers started pouring in, and because Marysville sits at the base of the mountains right here at the base of Highway 20 leading up to Grass Valley, Nevada City, and then Highway 49 and eventually up over the mountains, you know, Sierra Nevada mountains, it became a very important trading post. Look at this whole little plaza built to lead to that temple. It's very cool. It became a very important site to get all your supplies and junk to go up into the mountains and farm for gold. Is that what they call it? We're gonna go farming for gold. Look at this. So there's all kinds of cool stuff down here. This portion of Marysville clearly has some very Chinatown-esque features right down here along the river. Look at this building here. The Silver Dollar. You get some cocktails and steaks. Right after you come down from the mine, you come to the saloon and get yourself a beer. Look, there's all kinds of historical signs and monuments. There's one historical monument I want to show you in particular in a second. But yeah, all around Marysville, look at all this. So you have all that sort of 19th century architecture going on down here. Your medical building and something cooling professionals. They probably do air conditioning too, medical building and air conditioning, why not? And here you have a professional operation going on. Yes, they're a law office, but ignore that. It's a professional operation at this law office. None of your shenanigans here. Sorry. Anyway, I'm looking more at architecture. Yeah, so I was up here at court because, of course, I had the speeding ticket. If you weren't aware, I got a speeding ticket some time ago, up kind of in the middle of nowhere because I had to go to the bathroom and I thought it would be a good idea to get there faster by pushing down on the gas pedal harder. It turns out that was a little bit of a mistake. So I am $422 poorer, but that does include paying to go to traffic school, which means I don't have to go to jail, have my license taken away or anything like that. Now there are a lot of homeless people down here by this levee, because apparently there's a homeless camp down there. I just wanted to walk all the way down here and look at this. Look at that. So clearly some Chinese influence. There's a big mural over here showing the Chinese residents of early Marysville. But this is a historic gold rush town that's often overlooked. Much of Marysville is sort of closed up, kind of abandoned looking. Here we have two. How's it going? Here we have two gentlemen sitting down here just relaxing, enjoying their time. So here you go. Chinese American Museum of Northern California in Marysville. This is where I really wanted to come and do a vlog, but the museum hours are open only the first Saturday of the month from noon to 4 p.m. Well, since I have friends up here, I'm sure I'll be back up in Marysville and Yuba City at some point. Unfortunately, not too soon after now. I don't think the first, what is the first Saturday tomorrow? The first Saturday is tomorrow. Maybe I can visit this museum, I'm not sure. What did it say? The Chinese American Museum of Northern California? That is a hefty chunk of history to cover in a little museum. Yeah, Chinese American Museum of Northern California. So maybe I'll get to experience this. Okay, open the first Saturday of the month from noon to 4. Well, if you're ever in Marysville on the first Saturday of the month, this is the place for you. Look at, they even show one of those books, those Images of America books with the historic Marysville Chinatown. Pretty fascinating. Look at this mural here on the side of the museum building. Look at these guys. See, we got Chinese people. Maybe they're assaying rocks or bringing down tailings from the mine to check them out. Here we have a little marketplace action. Look at these guys, right? These guys know how to party. Rock and roll. Look at this. So that's pretty cool. They're having obviously some sort of festival or parade there. And I'm assuming this is meant to be Marysville here. Well, I don't want to disturb these two dudes down here who are being very friendly, but also look like they know how to party. And we don't want to go to that party, not today. Yeah, look at that. So we're in the Chinatown section of downtown Marysville, California. And there's another important historical monument at the end of the street where we started that I'm going to go back to and show you. Yeah, look at that. I just noticed this. I never saw this before. I've been down here 1 or 2 times before, but I never noticed this. That looks amazing. I don't think I can eat in it because of, you know, the whole gluten and the celiac and whatnot. But this looks amazing. It kind of reminds me of the perfect place to have Christmas dinner, like in A Christmas Story. Oh no, it's a great duck. It's just that it's smiling at me. How you doing? It's just that it's smiling at me. Fa ra 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 ra. One of the greatest scenes in the history of movies, especially holiday movies. So that's really cool. So you can see these buildings over here form, obviously, the museum. Look at that. A little basement action going on. And it's really cool that there's still a Chinese restaurant down in the historic Chinatown section. Oh man, cakes by request. That smelled so good. Of course, with the celiac disease, I don't think I'll be having any gluten-y cake today. Oh, look at this building up here. Looks a heck of a lot like the building from that mural, doesn't it? With like the balconies and stuff. We need 2 guys up there clinking glasses. Ah, we're gonna have some beer today. Or, what do you think they had? Beer? I don't know what that was. Beer? Whatever it was. Cool. Some antennas over here. Maybe they're broadcasting straight out of Chinatown. Straight out of Chinatown. Look at all this. Marysville, I have to say, side note, is a gorgeous, beautiful, very historic 1840s, 49er, gold rush era town with really cool old Chinatown buildings. This one says 1918 on it. There's all kinds of 19th and early 20th century buildings here. Look at this balcony up there. That is really interesting. I just really like old buildings. I like old everything. I like history a lot. But I have to say, Marysville, for the most part, is looking like it's fallen a little bit on hard times. It's one of those small towns that's kind of fallen victim to the not so happy economy of our early 21st century. Apparently, I've been told by my friends who live here that they used to have a cruise, so every weekend they'd have, I think every weekend or every so often they'd have a cruise. Millions of people coming down in cars and spending a lot of money in the little downtown area down here just off the highway. But I think at some point they banished it, sort of footloose. It was a sort of footloose moment where they banished the cruise from downtown. They didn't want any American graffiti hijinks. And so that was one of the first blows, and there's been others since. Obviously, the economy hasn't been so great for the last, what, 7, 8 years. So Marysville's looking a little hard pressed for cash. But if you're ever in the area, I would highly recommend coming to downtown historic Marysville and maybe spending $1 or $2. I just bought a soda a couple minutes ago from this little hot dog place. And when I walked in, the guy was doing something behind the counter where he was leaning down, and when he looked up and saw me there, he was so surprised that somebody had come in to spend some money. So I was happy to do that. I wish there was more that I could do, because I really like this whole downtown part of Marysville. Yeah, so anyway, I lost $500 today, kinda, paying for my own mistakes, but that's fine. I deserved it. No sense being negative. Instead, I turned it into a historical walking tour of the downtown Marysville area. Since I was at the courthouse anyway, I figured, what the hey, let's go learn a little bit about history using the smartphone, our feet, and my limited memory. That's a really cool part about smartphones, if you're into history, by the way, is that I would always travel before, and you'd have to go into the local library if you were lucky enough for one to be, A, be open, or B, have time. When I was on tour, I was in a punk band, and I was on the road touring for like 10 years of my life, just constantly on the road. And loving history and constantly reading history books and going to some historical places, I was really excited, you know. Okay, when I'm at Antietam or Gettysburg or something, I knew a lot about it, so I was very excited to be there. But when I would roll up to a town like Marysville and see all this interesting architecture and these little historical monuments and want to know more, there was really no way to know more unless you were lucky enough for the little small town museum to be open when you happened to be there and have 10 minutes, or to be able to have time, which we rarely did, to hit a library or check something like that out. Half the time you ask any of the local yokels history anywhere, they really don't know what they're talking about, so you sort of get a half correct history. So what's really cool is when you have the smartphone, if you're somewhere like this and you're thinking, well, I wonder when this place was built, you can actually just sit there and look it up, which is awesome. Okay, so months and months ago, the first time I ever visited Marysville, California, and my friend Allie who lives sort of nearby here, was showing me downtown, cute little downtown Marysville with all the little antique stores and other stuff, which, by the way, most of the cute little downtown is way down that way. There's little antique stores and the typical downtown things, and a cute little candy spot where you get ice cream and candy. Very cute. And all these little restaurants and sporting goods, hunting stores and stuff like that. Anyway, enough of Marysville. Is cool, you get the point already. Oh, look at this. Beckworth Riverfront Park. I don't know who Beckworth is, or why his face is trademarked, but I can look it up because I have a smartphone. Technology. We're living in the era of Star Trek. Wow. We're living the future. You can even ask Siri, hands-free, a question if you have an iPhone, which means you don't even have to use your hands. Pretty soon we're going to be looking at the old Razor phones where, you mean you got to use your hands? It's like a baby's toy. Okay, enough of that. When I first came down here, we were walking around. She was showing me this, which is very, very cool, very picturesque, very pretty. And in so doing, we passed a little rock that started to make me curious about something. I Googled it. I read a whole bunch about this before returning to Marysville, and ever since I've kind of wanted to show this in a Sometimes vlog. I never had the opportunity. Are you ready? 15 minutes in, it is this. Dun, 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 dun. Look at this big rock. First of all, let's just admire the fact that it's a very nice large rock. It probably took several men, maybe ladies, a good deal of effort to move it here. It says Historical Monument of Macy's, the first general merchandise store established 1850 to 1852 by Charles and Roland Macy, located 210 feet due west of this monument, which means down here near this bridge that crosses the river. What is that highway called? Well, this guy's shirt is actually awesome. What does your shirt say? You can't scare me. I have two daughters. Yeah. Perfect. I like that shirt a lot. This bridge over here that goes on, I can't remember the name of the highway, 70. It goes down to Sacramento. It meets back up with 99. Whatever that bridge that crosses over there. Right about where that bridge is starting to go over the river is about where the first Macy's, in California at least, the first Macy's store would be. Macy's, like where I buy my pants. Macy's, like you have in nearly every mall across the country. Macy's department store. One of the original ones was right here, downtown Marysville. And that's because Charles and Roland, by the way, Roland's middle name was Hussey. Charles and Roland Hussey Macy came out here like many other people did in 1849 and 50 to reap the harvest that was the gold rush. Now, most of the people who got mega rich, I'm not talking about gold rich, though there's obviously the billionaires who, well, now they would be billionaires, millionaires who went crazy and lucked out and got the big gold nuggets and the big gold mine operation and owned the companies. But for the most part, just like in the silver boom, the gold rush era, just like in every mining craze actually, big companies come in and they form up and companies end up owning all of the minerals, and most of the miners just end up working for wages. A lot of people go broke. The big gold rush, in a gold rush, even to this day, even like in the Silicon Valley thing, in the dot-com bubble, is always the suppliers. So the people who sell you the computer so that you can make all your crazy websites, or sell you the server so that you can try making a crazy website that makes $1 million, they're the ones that made all the money in the dot-com boom. And the people who really made a ton of money, who are almost guaranteed to be successful in the gold rush, were the people supplying all those miners with the shovels and the picks and the food and the flour, because these guys would go way up into the Sierra Nevada mountains. They would mine their little hearts out, come back panning for little gold dust. I have nothing and nobody. And even if they did strike it rich, they'd come down here, spend all their money gambling and whoring, and of course resupplying themselves. So Charles and Roland Hussey Macy, two brothers, I think from Massachusetts, almost 100% sure, definitely from the East Coast, came all the way out here to establish a dry goods store down here right off the river in Marysville, California. Spoiler alert, it was not all that successful. After learning some hard lessons here, you have to forgive me, I got a little bit of a cough. I'm really trying not to cough in your face. See, if you're on the radio, they have a little button, mutes the cough. I don't have that luxury. Roland Hussey Macy learned some valuable lessons here in the gold rush, supplying people. He and his brother, over the failure of the store perhaps, had a little bit of a split up, like, okay, you know what, we've been operating stores together, we've been tying our fortunes together. Good old Chucky Macy decided to stay here in Marysville, and Roland Hussey Macy returned to the East Coast and ended up establishing what would become the first actual Macy's department store that blossomed into the whole chain of Macy's department stores, and sold me this pair of Levi Strauss jeans, which, by the way, Levi Strauss is another character from the American Gold Rush. I think he actually did work at Sutter's Mill, John Sutter's Mill. By the way, the reason why this is Sutter County just over the river is because John Sutter, who owned Sutter's Mill where they discovered the gold and all that stuff, came over there to retire over by Yuba City and had a farm over there. There's a whole lot of history in this strange area between Chico and Sacramento, where you sort of look at the map in California and you go, what the heck? There's a lot of history everywhere you look. You just have to scratch the surface and dig. But right here, the Macy's brothers had their store, well, technically right over there, but for the sake of the vlog, right here, the Macy's brothers had a store. It did not work. It was a complete and utter failure. And Charles Macy, I believe, died not too long after out here in California, not as a rich, successful businessman owning a huge highly successful department store, but just as some guy who had come to make his fortune out west and more or less failed. But maybe if Chucky Macy hadn't have come out here, oh, he's buried in the Marysville Cemetery, by the way, which is a very cool, creepy, historic cemetery that I've never managed to find. I'm sure it's pretty easy to find, but it's also fenced off, I've been told. And so maybe, hopefully someday I'll be able to take a look at that too. Anyways, wasn't very successful, but maybe, just maybe, if it hadn't been for Chucky Macy screwing around with his hussy brother, Roland Hussy Macy, we wouldn't have the success that he had with Macy. Roland, I mean. That's a very confusing sentence, but you know what I'm saying? Everything we do, however small, I think, makes a difference. It's like the butterfly flapping the wings effect. Everything that happens has a cause and has an effect. And whether you believe that there's all some purpose behind it or it's just random coincidence, it's true that everything we do has an effect, right? Because matter can neither be created nor destroyed. It just changes. Energy doesn't disappear. It just changes forms, right? Is that correct? I'm not a scientist. Everything we do, you know, cause and effect, action, reaction, equal and opposite, all that kind of crazy scientific, I won't get into that because I can't, stuff. Everything we do has consequences, that's for dang sure. So even though, it's like this, okay? Maybe you have a son, a beautiful boy, he's playing baseball, he's doing good. Then he goes to college, and he starts to party, and he gets crazy, and he gets drunk, and he leads this horrible life. He becomes a pirate and a criminal and a murderer. Well, maybe not a murderer, maybe a little bit of a murderer, maybe a soft murderer, whatever that means. Crazy, does crazy stuff, and you think that guy's a lost cause. But maybe at the end of all of that, he becomes the guy who figures out how to solve the problem of homelessness. You never know. Or maybe he influences or he murders somebody, and that causes somebody to take up the charge of stopping murder, and they cure murder. What I'm saying is, you never know. You might feel like a failure sometimes, but you never know what kind of consequences your actions are going to have in a positive way. So even when things seem super down and super negative and you feel very, very unsuccessful, like you've never done anything with your life, remember that some of us out there think that there may be a reason that you exist after all, and maybe you're doing something you're completely even unaware of. That could change the entire world. Maybe you're the guy that bought the hamburger from the chain that almost went out of business, but didn't quite, so was able to employ a guy who was putting himself through college who cures cancer. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're all part of this weird fabric of humanity and this weird fabric of life on this crazy planet. As far as we know, there is no intelligent life anywhere else in the universe that we can prove. Come on, guys. I'm also interested in discovering if there were aliens too, but just for the sake of the story here, for the sake of the narrative. So I don't know, we're all part of something special, aren't we? We're all breathing. Anyway, historical monument of Macy's. And here is the cool part. Almost 10 minutes after talking about Macy's, do you see what's wrong with this, guys? Do you see it? When you see it. So like I was saying, when you're in a town and you're looking at history, some of the local yokels, or fine-meaning, well-educated businessmen and people who are interested in preserving history, even the very best and brightest of our communities can make some monumental mistakes. Huh? You see it yet? You see it yet? The thing is though, guys, look at this. Yes, there's a mistake here, but was it worthless? Absolutely not, because I walked by, I noticed it, I looked up a bunch of history, I learned something today, and you know what? Roland Hussy Macy will be remembered forever for establishing the Macy's that became Macy's. Charles Chucky Macy here, who hung out down in old Chinatown and sold his wares along the river here in Marysville, California in 1849 to me and my mule. He probably isn't remembered all that often, and if these guys hadn't stuck this stone here, typo and all, did you see it yet? Come on, come on. Maybe none of us would have ever heard of Chucky Macy. And then where would we be? Right? So anyway, your mistakes are not who you are. Mistakes don't mean that you suck. Mistakes don't mean that life is over. I made a mistake. Well, I mean, yeah, it was a mistake to speed and get a speeding ticket And then I had to stay up here, suffer the consequences. Oh, look at this fine family. And pay off my debt to society.
I'm like, is that a squirrel? Is that...
mighty big squirrel.
Which I did. I'm a large squirrel, apparently. So I paid off my debt to society here in Marysville, California, fixing some mistakes and trying to live in the belief and live with the philosophy that I may not know what's coming and I may not know what's best. We're always trying to control our lives and control our situations, control our minds, control our surroundings, always, constantly. Even the most laid back and chill and relaxed of us is constantly trying to control. I mean, look at this guy. It's the cover of Field and Stream right there from the 1990s because of his vehicle. We're always trying to control our environment and control what happens around us. We can't do it though all the time, can we? We do not always get to affect the people, the things, the places around us the way that we wish to. Bad things happen to us, and no matter how hard we try, and no matter how much we pour our hearts into something or try to control a situation, it doesn't always work. The one thing that we can try to have control over and mastery over that's important, because we always think about this the wrong way. We think if we could just control our circumstances, that we would be happy. Well, that's completely, well, it might be a little bit true, but it's not the right way to go about it, because you can't control your circumstances. You will eventually be disappointed. By the way, look at this. Super Patterson's Electronics. Am I right? Anyway. The key is to control your reaction to your circumstances. Somebody does something you don't like, you can do one of two things. You can either just not like it and freak out, be angry, be upset that you can't control your circumstances, keep trying to control your circumstances, trying to control the other person, or you can accept that you can't control it, and you can accept that the one thing that you can control is yourself, your reaction. You can choose to forgive, to be kind, to ignore, to keep going on in your life, that kind of thing. You can lose your job, you can choose to freak out, panic, worry about money, lose your mind, right? And you think, oh, I have to control the circumstance, I have to control not losing my job, I have to control this, I have to control that. You're not gonna be thinking correctly though, are you? You're gonna be stressed out. Are you going to be really strategically looking for the next job? Are you really going to be calm enough to think about all the opportunities that might present themselves? No, so your choice there is to control your reaction to the bad situation, because maybe the place went out of business, maybe you had nothing to do with it. You had no control over the fact that you were going to lose your job. So you have to control the reaction to the fact you lost your job. Choose to be positive, choose to look on the bright side as much as possible, or at least choose to react in the way you would wish someone to react. Do you know what I mean by that? It's a whole do unto others thing, but rather than doing unto others, react the way you would want someone to react around you. So if you were writing the story of the perfect, most moral, greatest person ever and how they would react to a bad situation, how you would want someone to react in a bad situation, that's what you should be doing, I think. So that's what I try and remember in my head when something terrible happens, like having to dump $500 into basically nothingness, other than, you know, don't go to jail or lose your driver's license. So I guess there's a point to it all. Paying your debt to society and sending those children to school and whatnot, paying the CHP salaries. So there's some good there. Instead of just getting negative and going, or thinking it's unfair, or, you know, something like that. Why? Just be positive. Just be positive. Then you're going to be thinking more clearly. You're going to make better decisions, all that kind of stuff. So constantly talking about this and constantly harping about it, but it really boils down to this. I have my own personal beliefs. You have your own personal beliefs. We don't have to ever discuss them, nor should we, because there's no reason we can't get along despite having different moral codes, perhaps, or the same moral code. But I've boiled down sort of my beliefs to an essential mantra that I try. This is really like the thing that if people don't just, you know, people disagree with this, I don't really get along with them. It's kind of the testing ground, or the creed almost, is love is better than hate. Forgiveness better than revenge. You heard it before. No, what it is kindness is better than cruelty, love is better than hate, and if possible, forgiveness is always better than revenge. And guess what? It's almost always possible. So I actually have that as a shirt on livefastdiepoor.spreadshirt.com, where you can also get this shirt as well. The positivity mantra. And it's true. It's very, very true. I very much believe in the fact that if you're angry for more than a day or two, no matter what it is, you gotta let it go, because it's going to eat you up and destroy you. And I'm the same way with the whole positive negative thing, that if there are things that are making you negative and distraught, And you can't get them out of your life because you had no choice, or somebody else's choice, or somebody else's thing. You can do one of two things. You can keep freaking out about it, you can keep bashing your head against the wall, being upset, or you can try to accept the things that you cannot change and do it with dignity and positivity, and try to look on the bright side and find the positive in the negative. So I had to pay a speeding ticket, but hey, what's the positive? I get to be up here, I get to see friends of mine, I get to walk around downtown Marysville, check out this guy over here's awesome brightly tie-dyed shirt, and I get to show you guys the historical, right, monument to Macy's and the, what was it, the Buckeye Temple, which worships a water god of China, apparently, near a river, where there was a historic Chinatown I never knew about, and a North American or Northern California Chinese American museum. Now I'm seeing an old abandoned building for Nakagawa Company, fresh fish and groceries and fresh bait, which that sounds more like a Japanese last name. So now I'm wondering if there were lots of Japanese people living in Marysville. So there's all kinds of interesting historical things I'm learning about, thinking about, and it would have never happened had I not really had to pee and sped up my car. So is it worth $500? Not sure. But I'm gonna look on the bright side and not worry about it anyway. So I hope you guys are all having a super positive day. Sorry for the short vlogs lately. When I'm out of town and I don't have reliable Wi-Fi, it's very difficult to upload long videos. So I thought we'd have a long hangout today. Look at these guys are following me. You think they're coming? You think they're after my wallet? They're probably after my wallet. I think they took my wallet. Anyway, we're back. Going back towards the courthouse here. It's a long walk. There's a giant warehouse over here that says guns and ammo that I kind of want to go look at. I gotta get back to my Mustang and go find myself some Mountain Dew before my lips fall off my face from dryness. I love you all. Subscribe for some more Sometimes vlogs. Check out our website, livefastdiepoor.com, because Tyler Evans and Jeff Heimbach are still posting all kinds of cool stuff over there. Hit me up on Twitter, @JustinScarred, Instagram, @JustinScarred, and also, I do have a Snapchat, which my username on there is livefastdiepoor. All one word, all lowercase, no spaces. So I'm hanging out on there a lot. I've been taking it easy the last week or two. Monday though, I return home, probably on Monday, maybe sooner, probably on Monday though. This next week there's a whole lot of filming going on, a lot of crazy stuff. So there's a lot of crazy work to do in April. I'm just trying to take that big, calm breath before I have to go insane filming and seeing wonderful things with all of you people. Good morning. So I don't know when this will be uploaded. It is morning now. Might not be morning where you are, so good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I love you all. Sometimes vlog. Signing off.